This dish is one of 4 surviving pieces from a remarkable set of dining wares made in Pesaro around 1476 to 90 for Matthias Corvinus, King of Hungary, and his second wife, Beatrice of Aragon. All 4 of the pieces in the Corvinus set have broad, brightly painted borders with the arms of the couple. 2 of the pieces are painted with narrative scenes at the center. One in the V&A, shown here, depicts boys gathering fruit as an allegory of abundance, a theme associated with marriage and fertility. At the center of the Metropolitan's dish is a young woman seated in a landscape, combing the mane of the unicorn which lies in her lap. According to legend, the fierce unicorn could only be tamed by a virgin, after which it could be captured. The deer in the background allude to the hunt which is to come. Here I can't resist showing you this marvelous drawing by Leonardo da Vinci, dating from the late 1470s, which shows a young girl pointing at the unicorn which she's just tamed. Leonardo recounted the story in his notebooks, bringing out the erotic and sexual elements in the image. He writes, "The unicorn, through its lack of temperance, and because it doesn't know how to control itself for the delight it has for young maidens, forgets its ferocity and wildness, and laying aside all fear, it goes up to the seated maiden and goes to sleep in her lap, and in this way the hunters take it." During the Middle Ages, this legend took on Christian connotations, so that the maiden who exemplifies chastity could also be compared with the Virgin Mary. On this dish, the story is presented as an allegory of feminine chastity, a virtue promoted in association with betrothal and marriage. A late 15th century Florentine engraving in the British Museum strengthens the link of the unicorn theme with marriage. It shows the young woman caressing the unicorn in her lap as he gazes up at her, enraptured. She holds in her other hand the collar and chain from which she's released him. She is flanked by 2 shields which have been left blank to hold the arms of families united by marriage. Matthias and Beatrice were married in 1476, but it cannot be proven that the Maiolica set was made to commemorate that event, despite the suitability of the iconography for that purpose. It's likely, however, to have been made for the couple before Matthias's death in 1490. What we do know is that his wife had a taste for Maiolica of this sort. In 1486, for example, the Ferrarese ambassador advised Eleonora d'Aragona, Duchess of Ferrara, to send Maiolica from Faenza to Beatrice, for she would rejoice in them more than if they were made of silver. Maiolica of this kind was perceived to have a high aesthetic value amongst the ruling elites. This impressive bowl in the British Museum can be shown to be closely associated with a dynastic marriage. It was made in the Tuscan town of Montelupo between 1513 and 1521. We can date it from the arms and devices of the Medici Pope Leo X, who ruled during that period. Inside the bowl are the Medici arms with a lion's mask at the top, referring to Leo, as well as the papal tiara and the cross keys. The association with Leo is strengthened by the appearance of 4 of his personal devices, or imprese, painted on the inside. The bowl combines these devices with Leo's arms in a way which suggests that it is likely to have been a personal commission. The decoration on the outside incorporates the Medici arms 3 more times, supported by putti, who bear flaming torches, emblem of Hymen, the ancient Roman god of marriage. The theme of marriage is borne out by the fact that the Medici arms alternate with those of the 3 principal Roman and Florentine families with which the Medici allied themselves. The Salviati arms, seen in the detail on the right, recall the marriage of Leo's niece, Maria Salviati, to Giovanni delle Bande Nere in 1516. Their son was to rule Florence as Cosimo I de' Medici from 1537. It was through this marriage that the 2 branches of the Medici were finally reunited. The marriage carried special significance in the revival of Medici family fortunes, and the iconography of the bowl makes it clear in situating the marriage within the Medici power network in Rome and in Florence. This beautiful dish in the Lehmann collection also documents a marriage within the papal network. It was painted in Urbino, then lustered in Gubbio, and dated 1528. It shows Mary Magdalene drying Christ's feet with her hair. The arms in the grotesque border record the marriage in 1506 of Pope Julius II's illegitimate daughter, Felice della Rovere, to Gian Giordano Orsini, Lord of Bracciano, who died in 1517. Felice used these arms as a widow until her death in 1536, and the beautiful plate may have been a present in her widowhood from her cousin in Urbino, Francesco Maria della Rovere. Sets of Maiolica dining wares seem to have been conceived as appropriate presents for noble widows in the 1520s, as in the case of the marvellous set made by Nicola da Urbino in 1524-5 for Isabella d'Este, Marchioness of Mantua. When Isabella's daughter, Eleonora della Rovere, Duchess of Urbino, commissioned this set as a present for her mother, she explained that it was suitable for life in the feminine literary world of her mother's villa. Writing to her mother in November 1524, Eleonora explained, "I have had made a set of dining wares in earthenware, since the master craftsmen here in Urbino have some reputation for good work. And if it pleases your excellency, I shall be happy, and you might make use of it at your villa in Porto, since it's a villa thing." I show you here one piece from the set in the British Museum, which illustrates the justice of Trajan, a story which would have been considered appropriate as a tribute to Isabella, since it deals with a virtuous ruler as well as featuring a widow as heroine. There's a fascinating, though earlier, reference to such Maiolica wares being thought suitable for a widow, at least in some circles. A letter of 1501 describes how the widowed Lucretia Borgia was abandoning her mourning for her husband. Up to now, Donna Lucretia, according to Spanish usage, has eaten from earthenware Maiolica, but now she's begun to eat from silver, as if almost no longer a widow. From pieces commemorating specific marriages through their arms, we move to pieces which are painted with inscriptions or motifs associated with marriage. The feature of the clasped hands at the center of this plate, made in Faenza around 1490 to 1510, is known as the fede motif and is often found on Maiolica dishes, bowls, and tiles, sometimes associated with the word fede or faith. It was used to denote a contract, and during the Middle Ages came to serve as a symbol of betrothal or of devotion. The concept of faithful love is elaborated upon in related mottos in late 15th century Florentine engravings, like this one showing a reclining nymph accompanied by the legend, "Love needs faith, and where there is no faith, there can be no love." This Maiolica inkstand, painted in Faenza around 1500, takes the marriage theme even further. It's divided into compartments for ink and writing equipment. At one end, visible in the image on the right, is a band painted with the profile busts of a man and a woman facing one another. Both wear court dress of the period 1490 to 1506. Her appearance closely resembles that of the young amorous woman on the Florentine jug dated 1499, shown here on the left, which can also be seen in the exhibition. Between the lovers is the familiar motif of the fede, or clasped hands, surrounded by fluttering ribbons, and the legend in Italian, "I give you my hand, give me the ring." The paired profiles of the couple gazing towards one another echo that in paired panel portraits to be seen in the exhibition. The fede motif and the inscription make the iconography explicit in referring to the marriage vow and the gift of a ring, fede, to signify it. The signing of the contract or scritta between two families was the key element in elite marriage rituals. It's a plausible hypothesis that this inkstand might have been intended to be used at the signing of a marriage contract or the exchange of vows before a notary. It's the only one that can be linked tentatively to the marriage ceremony through both its iconography and inscription.